Alright, so update on the Porter joiner restoration. So I've got the motor pressed out. You can see the rotor here, or the stator here, and the rotor here. It was pretty easy to get out. The press fixture worked exactly as I planned. Everything came out pretty smooth. The bucket heater here was a big help. It got the entire casting up to a core temperature of around 150 to 175 degrees Fahrenheit, somewhere in that range. I was just monitoring it with a thermocouple readout put into one of the bolt holes for the mounting for the rear cover flange. So it seemed to work pretty good. I let that soak for a few hours before pressing, and it came right out. Definitely took less than 6 tons like I anticipated, so that was good. Yeah, the press fixture is pretty simple. I just took some of the tubing that I had and I doubled it up on one side just to raise it up to the height of the center line for the shaft. The bolt holes that I had available to me were probably 2 or 3 inches below the center line of the shaft, so having this second stacked tubing on top here brought it up to the right height, so it worked out pretty good. Then just put some bars crossed horizontally on the back with 2 bolts each, 7/16 grade 5 bolts. So I guess I calculated that this press fixture is probably good to around 20 tons with a safety factor in there, so definitely feel comfortable about using this same fixture to do the installation when I get the motor rebuilt. It's going to turn the whole thing around and press the motor back in from this side using this same exact fixture, so I don't have to make anything. So it should work pretty good. Definitely don't need 20 tons, but it's good to have it rated for more than I need. As far as the motor goes, I was in fact wrong. This motor does not have terminals on the back side. This motor is hardwired, so for each of the 3 legs of the 3-phase motor, the leads are hardwired in. So I called a local company near here that rebuilds induction motors and sort of told them what was going on, and the guy said, yeah, bring it in. So I'm going to take it over to them later this week or beginning of next week and get them to price me, quote me for rebuilding this and rewiring it for 220 and see what the options are there. And so I do need to get this the rotor off. I thought the rotor would just come off. I mean, it's a keyed shaft, so there's nothing holding it on here other than friction, and I don't know if it was that tight of a tolerance or if it's got a burr somewhere, but for whatever reason this is not coming off by hand or either with a little bit of hammer persuasion. So ordered a longer gear puller. The 6-inch gear puller that I have is short by about 1 inch, so I ordered a slightly larger gear puller. It's one that will grab both this rotor to pull that off, and also there's a bearing inside of here, so I'm going to pull this whole housing off too. So with a 12-inch gear puller I'll be able to get all of that off. So that's the next step. Once I get all of that off, I'm going to send the stator and the rotor over to be rebuilt. And I'll take this bearing housing off to check on that bearing, see how it looks, see if there's anything in there that needs to be fixed up. But yeah, so the cutter head's out. While I have it out, I'm going to measure all of the dimensions on the cutter head itself as far as the bearing, ID, OD, the shaft itself, the cutter head, and then the shaft on the drive side. Measure everything and send it over to Byrd Tool just to double check. They advertise that they have a cutter head that will fit a 12-inch Porter, I'm just going to send the dimensions of what I have here just to verify and double check to make sure that my cutter head is the exact one they have, and see what the lead times and pricing and all on the Byrd Tool helical cutter head would be. So gonna get all this going, and stay tuned. Hopefully I'll have this going back together soon enough.